The UN Syria peace talks have been suspended again. So what went wrong this time? I'm joined by Bassam Barabandi, who was a career diplomat serving in the Syrian government's embassy in Washington, D.C. But he was a mole, secretly issuing passports to Syrian opposition activists battling the Assad regime. In 2013, he formally defected and is now part of the official Syrian opposition and a political advisor to the head of the High Negotiations Committee, which left the Geneva talks this week and threatened not to return. Bassam Barabandi, thanks for joining me on UpFront. Is this just a temporary pause to the peace talks, as the UN Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura said on Wednesday, or are they done? Are they finished, in your view?
We hope it's not. The opposition is very clear concerning the peace talks, that we believe that political solution is the way to solve the Syrian crisis. And we hope the UN and the superpowers use influence and leverage on the regime side in order to give the people hope.
You say it's up to the superpowers to have leverage. Some would say that rather than you guys, the opposition, and Assad sitting around the table, really it's all of the external powers, all of the regional powers and superpowers who are involved in the various sides who should be getting around the table. Some say that Saudi and Iran need to get to an agreement first before Syria can be saved.
I agree. I mean, if the Saudis and the Iranians, they find a way to sit together to solve all the problems, a lot of things will change positively in the Middle East. But it's about Iran. Iran is refusing to act in a productive way, in peaceful way, in respecting the neighbors, respecting the sovereignty of the people, you know.
And the Iranians say it's the backers of the Syrian opposition who fund quote-unquote jihadist groups,
yeah, I mean, just today,
the
Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Zarifi, he said that Iran is supporting the ceasefire in Syria. And that's, for us, it's ridiculous simply because Iran is fighting, Iran is killing. So if he is ready, is he serious when he's talking? He just ordered his people to stop the killing.
The Syrian army, backed by Iran, backed by Russian airstrikes, which the Russians say are targeted at ISIL and at Jabhat al-Nusra, the Syrian army is on the up at the moment. It's busy retaking rebel-held territory on the ground this week. Some would say now is a good time for you guys to talk to them. You know, you're losing a lot of leverage right now.
Again, at the UN, in the meeting in Geneva, that some people, they raised the question of ceasefire for ceasefire. And we told them that ceasefire, the people already, we lost more than 400,000 people has been killed. More, God knows how many numbers has been disappeared. You know the number of the refugees. So any solution should consider the root of the problems, not the consequences of the problems.
But again, many would say you need to be realistic. You know, 5 years ago, the Syrian opposition and the US government stuck to this line that Assad has to go. He can't be part of any solution. It's non-negotiable. Today, the US government, recognizing facts on the ground, recognizing that just demanding something doesn't make it happen, it's switched now. It's softened its position on Assad and his future role in any peace talks or transition. Isn't it time? Many would say the Syrian opposition did the same in relation to Assad. Just accept the reality. Yeah. As much as you loathe him, rightly or wrongly, we are where we are.
As long as Assad in power, there will be no stability. There will be more refugees. There will be more terrorist group. There will be more ISIS expanding.
And your opponents would say, as long as you refuse to sit down and talk and accept some part of the regime, the war will carry on and more people will die.
We say that we are willing to accept the regime, the people who didn't kill the people who have no blood on their hands. We want stability in Syria, stability in the Middle East. We want the people, refugees, to come back their home. So we are with the negotiation. We are with the peaceful negotiation that will not produce Assad regime again.
The problem with saying you want the killings to stop first before we get anywhere, the problem with saying you want people without blood on their hands involved is that...
On both sides.
Both sides.
This
is the problem.
No, there's no problem.
This is what a lot of people point out. You know, the Syrian opposition, Syrian rebel groups have been accused of vicious war crimes and human rights violations, not on the scale of the Assad regime, but still torture, killings, kidnappings, starvation. We heard a lot about the Assad siege of Madaya, disgusting siege of Madaya, which the UN Secretary General called a war crime. But he also accused Syrian rebel groups of using starvation against 2 regime-controlled towns. How do we move forward when all sides have blood on their hands?
No, we say that the future of Syria should be without the people who have blood on their hands. The future of Syria.
Okay.
But today, I mean, we have to sit with so many people that they have blood on their hands because we have to go forward.
So as an advisor to the High Negotiations Committee head, would you say that in a future Syria, tell me what your future Syria looks like without Assad after the war is over? Does it involve some of these quote-unquote Islamist groups, jihadist groups on the rebel side? Are they part of the coalition government that rules in Syria?
As long as they are Syrian fighters, freedom fighters, they have nothing, they don't associate it with Al-Qaeda, with any terrorist group. They are Syrian.
What if they don't believe in democracy? What if they want a khilafat?
We don't believe that whenever we have stability in Syria, that this mode or this trend of the extreme Islamists will exist in Syria.
Isn't that what everyone said in Libya? And today, look at Libya today.
It's about how
militias are at each other's throats.
It's about how to reach there. It's about the process. If you give us the stability, you give us political process, you give us the leverage for all the parties, I think we will have way to go ahead.
Even though some groups on your side don't believe in elections or democracy,
they are minorities. Openly. Maybe they are because of the due to the war nowadays. They have upper hand a little bit. But when you talk about,
but you're confident they wouldn't have an upper hand in the future.
As long as if we have stability, I don't think as long as we have stability, the people have the right to choose.
That's what's lacking at the moment. Yeah. You personally, Bassam, in an almost Hollywood movie way, you worked as a mole for the Syrian opposition within the Syrian embassy in Washington, D.C., before rather dramatically defecting in July 2013. Did you think then that 2.5 years later, this war would still be raging on and we'd be no closer to a negotiated solution?
Look, I work with the Syrian Foreign Ministry for the last 15, 17 years. And I had the chance to be in good position, and I knew from day one that we are going to bloody war. I didn't expect that to be that long or that bloody. So I chose to help the people the position where I am to reach to the point that I knew that is done. The regime knows about me.
When you were helping the people from within the embassy working for the Assad regime, were you worried about getting caught and what might happen to you if you got caught?
No, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. So many people were against me. I know some people from the embassy themselves, they work with the Assad regime as whatever they are. Like intelligence against us. So the risk was very high, extremely was high. But for me, still, I was not in Syria. The damage will be in a way controlled. They confiscated my houses, the family houses, such kind of thing. But when you compare it to the person who lost his family, it's nothing. So I had a mobilization to help the people.
You said you worked for the Syrian Foreign Ministry for more than a decade.
Yeah.
You obviously must still have contacts in there, people you worked with. Sure. You must know how they think. Do you think that there are people within that ministry, within that government, who will either A, compromise, or B, join you and turn against Assad?
Look, I think from my experience from most of this category that you are talking about, even with the Alawite, even with the people close to Assad himself, I don't think the people are happy with the war. Everybody wants this war to be finished.
Of course.
Number one. Number two, everybody wants to have some kind of guarantee that after this war, after all these damages, I will not be affected as long as I have nothing to do with the war as technocrats. And I think with this new committee, NHC, I think they are providing such kind of guarantees.
Bassam Barabandi, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much for having time for having me.
That's our show. UpFront will be back next week.